This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
What I think is interesting about this case, this story, is you can be highly legal.
In the small but increasingly active town of Dune, Illinois, tensions are mounting as local politics take center stage. The latest clash between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and trustee Kiana Bella has ignited intense debate and deepened divisions within the community. What started as a routine political disagreement has evolved into a fierce battle over power, transparency, and accountability. Trustee Bella has emerged as a vocal critic of Henyard's administration, condemning what she sees as a lack of transparency in the mayor's leadership. Her outspoken opposition has polarized the town, turning board meetings into heated battlegrounds. While some residents firmly back Bella's calls for accountability, others remain loyal to Henyard, believing she is doing her best in challenging circumstances. The escalating conflict between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and trustee Kiana Bella has increasingly transformed the political landscape in Dune, Illinois, into a contentious struggle that goes far beyond traditional governance. What began as routine disagreements at town board meetings has morphed into an all-out battle over transparency, accountability, and public trust, with every session now resembling a heated debate that captures the community's full attention. Henyard supporters argue that her leadership is all that can be expected in challenging circumstances, while Bella's advocates insist on a more open, accountable administration, fueling a deep and widening rift. As the stakes continue to rise, with every new development intensifying emotions and deepening divisions among residents, the town finds itself at a crossroads where the outcome of this power struggle will not only determine immediate policy shifts but also set a precedent for the future functioning of local government.
In a room filled with curiosity and concern, Tiffany Henyard addressed her constituents.
The Thornton Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor invited the community to Township Talk, where she responded to our report about her use of the township credit card by mentioning
Management sparked a heated exchange, with Bella pressing for greater transparency and accountability. As allegations of overspending and obstructed documentation mount, critics argue that Henyard's administration lacks the necessary financial oversight, further fueling distrust among residents. Supporters of the mayor, however, dismiss these claims as politically motivated attacks aimed at undermining her leadership. The recent altercation at the board meeting has only intensified the divide, drawing heightened public attention to the growing controversy. With tensions escalating and financial concerns at the forefront, the village of Dalton faces increasing uncertainty about its leadership and fiscal future. Expenditures, arguing that the payments were made in accordance with established procedures and that the event in question was beneficial to the community. She dismissed the concerns as unnecessary political theatrics, insisting that her administration had done nothing wrong. However, Bella and her supporters saw the deliberate splitting of invoices as an attempt to sidestep accountability, further fueling suspicions of financial mismanagement. The revelation intensified tensions within the board, turning what was already a contentious debate into a full-blown confrontation over transparency and ethical governance. As the divide deepens, residents of Dalton are left questioning whether their leadership is acting in the town's best interest or engaging in questionable financial practices. With emotions running high and no resolution in sight, the controversy surrounding Henyard's administration continues to dominate local discourse, leaving the village's future clouded by uncertainty. A deliberate tactic to limit scrutiny and reduce public participation. She argued that critical financial decisions should be discussed openly and at a reasonable time when residents and board members can fully engage in the process. The late-hour budget presentation only reinforced existing concerns about transparency, with many seeing it as yet another example of Henyard's administration operating in a way that avoids accountability. For residents who have been following the ongoing disputes, this was just one more instance in a pattern of governance that appears increasingly secretive and resistant to oversight. While Henyard supporters insist that she is managing the village's affairs as best as possible, critics like Bella argue that her approach is eroding public trust. The growing rift between the mayor and her opponents has made board meetings more contentious than ever, with each new development adding fuel to an already intense political battle. As tensions continue to rise, the people of Dalton are left grappling with deep questions about leadership, responsibility, and the future direction of their community. Committee requested detailed records. They were met with delays and incomplete reports, further heightening concerns about financial mismanagement. Critics argued that this lack of transparency was not just an oversight but a deliberate attempt to obscure how public funds were being used. Bella and other trustees pressed for accountability, demanding a full audit and greater oversight of village expenditures. Rather than addressing these concerns head-on, Henyard continued to downplay the controversy, insisting that all expenses were legitimate and within her authority. However, the mounting evidence of financial irregularities and her dismissive attitude toward scrutiny only deepened public skepticism. Many residents who once supported Henyard now question whether her leadership prioritizes the village's best interests or personal discretion over public funds. The contrast between her past insistence on financial accountability as a trustee and her current resistance to oversight as mayor has become a focal point of frustration for both the board and the community. As tensions escalate, Dalton finds itself at a crossroads, with growing demands for change and an increasingly vocal opposition determined to hold its leadership accountable. Continued deflection from Henyard's administration only deepened frustrations among both board members and residents. The revelation that the village's credit cards had been cancelled the previous year but were still in use without proper documentation sent shockwaves through the community, reinforcing concerns about unchecked spending and financial mismanagement. Despite being confronted with clear evidence, Henyard refused to take responsibility, instead resorting to baseless accusations against board members and respected community figures. Her attempts to shift blame backfired, as emails from the bank confirmed that she maintained control over the account management, directly contradicting her previous statements. Rather than acknowledging the discrepancies, Henyard doubled down on claims that she was the target of a political smear campaign. However, for many in Dalton, her refusal to provide transparency and accountability only solidified the perception that her leadership was failing. As scrutiny intensifies, the village remains deeply divided, with residents demanding answers and trustees like Bella continuing to push for reforms. The growing unrest has left Dalton's future uncertain, as the community grapples with whether its leadership can regain public trust or if a deeper shakeup is necessary to restore integrity to local governance. Henyard's refusal to take responsibility for her actions has left many residents questioning her ability to lead, with tensions in Dalton reaching a boiling point. What was once a base of loyal supporters has increasingly turned into a disillusioned public, frustrated by the scandals, secrecy, and lack of transparency surrounding her administration. Many now wonder whether Henyard is truly committed to serving the village or if she is more focused on protecting her own political power. The larger concern is whether her leadership will continue to undermine Dalton's future by prioritizing political maneuvering over effective governance. As confidence in her ability to lead erodes, the village finds itself at a crossroads, uncertain of the path forward. Whether Henyard can regain the trust of her constituents or if a new leader will rise to restore stability remains to be seen. One thing is certain: the political landscape in Dalton has shifted dramatically, and the consequences of this ongoing turmoil will shape the village's future for years to come.
Administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking
to what she sees as a pattern of secrecy and financial mismanagement within Henyard's administration. She, along with other trustees, has repeatedly pushed for greater transparency and accountability, arguing that the board has a responsibility to ensure taxpayer money is being used appropriately. However, Henyard's insistence that she alone controls day-to-day operations has only fueled suspicions that she is more focused on consolidating her own authority than addressing the concerns of the community. As political infighting continues, frustration among residents grows, with many feeling that the town's real needs, such as infrastructure improvements, public safety, and economic development, are being neglected in favor of power struggles. Individuals like Darrell Way and other concerned citizens believe that public officials should prioritize the well-being of the community over personal or political gain. The deepening divide between Henyard and the trustees has left June at a standstill, with its future uncertain as calls for accountability and change grow louder. Access, insisting that such records required her explicit approval before being released. This unusual level of control over basic financial information only fueled further suspicions that Henyard was deliberately obstructing oversight. Trustees, including Bella and Jason House, argued that without access to these documents, they could not effectively fulfill their responsibilities to ensure fiscal accountability. The refusal to provide payroll records was just one of many instances that highlighted Henyard's increasing resistance to transparency. Once an advocate for accountability herself, she now seemed determined to limit scrutiny, further alienating both the board and the public. The pattern of lavish spending, lack of cooperation, and restricted access to financial data has deepened concerns that her leadership is more focused on consolidating power than on serving the best interests of June's residents. As board meetings grow more contentious and trust in the administration continues to erode, the town faces an uncertain future, with many questioning how long this political standoff can continue before it causes lasting damage to local governance. Public's mistrust. The discovery of emails proving that the finance director had, in fact, followed Henyard's instructions to withhold payroll reports sent shockwaves through the meeting, further solidifying the perception that transparency was being actively suppressed. The audible gasp from the crowd reflected the growing disbelief and frustration among residents who had hoped for honesty in their local government. But the payroll issue was just one piece of a much larger problem. Henyard's administration appeared to be operating under a culture of secrecy. Trustees had not received any credit card statements since May of the previous year, despite ongoing financial turmoil in the village. Bella, recognizing the absurdity of approving expenses without seeing the details, demanded answers. Henyard insisted that the town no longer used credit cards, claiming they had been cancelled months ago, yet she failed to provide evidence when pressed. The situation escalated further when it became clear that the mayor had personally authorized expenditures that had not been properly approved by the board. With mounting evidence of financial mismanagement and an unwillingness to provide clarity, Henyard's leadership continues to face increasing scrutiny. Her refusal to engage in open discussions about the village's finances only fuels suspicions that she is prioritizing control over accountability. As frustrations rise, the community is left wondering how long this power struggle can continue before it does irreparable damage to June's government and future. The stakes for June's future have never been higher. Many residents believe Henyard is attempting to cover up financial mismanagement and avoid accountability, further deepening the community's distrust. The power struggle between the mayor and the trustees has paralyzed the town's ability to address pressing concerns, with Henyard's firm grip on financial matters creating a significant roadblock to progress. As disputes escalate, Henyard finds herself increasingly isolated from both her colleagues and the residents of June. While Bella and the other trustees continue their push for transparency, the mayor's defensive and dismissive approach only widens the divide. With each new revelation, concerns grow that her administration is heading toward political and financial instability. For the people of June, this conflict is more than just political drama. It reflects deeper issues of leadership, accountability, and the town's future direction. Frustration mounts as progress stalls, leaving residents to wonder whether June can move past this crisis or if history will repeat itself. The resolution of this ongoing battle will undoubtedly shape the village's political and financial landscape for years to come.
Concerns in Thornton Township and a push to regulate what some call out-of-control spending by township.
That the mayor's leadership has become more about personal control than public service. As tensions escalate, residents are losing patience with the ongoing political gridlock, which has stalled meaningful progress on key community issues. Bella and other trustees have continued their push for transparency, arguing that financial oversight and open governance are essential to restoring trust. However, Henyard's increasingly defensive stance and resistance to scrutiny have only fueled further division. With each new controversy, more residents are beginning to question whether the mayor is prioritizing the town's best interests or simply tightening her grip on power. For many, this situation is about more than just political disagreements. It represents a fundamental struggle over accountability and leadership. As frustration grows, the people of June are left wondering how much longer their village can endure this turmoil before significant changes must be made.